For this project, I used an 8x8 canvas and painted it white. And then I took Krylon metallic gold leaf spray paint while the white paint was still wet and sprayed it on multiple times and continued to brush it off and spray it on and brush it off until I got the desired effect. I picked up these two beautiful metallic red, Christmassy looking, I'm not even sure what you call them, from the Goodwill for $4.99 each. It looks like they were from Home Goods originally for $12.99. But when I saw it, I thought, oh, those would be perfect for poinsettia petals. The perfect color. Anyway, the tool I'm using in this project is called a nipper. I originally bought it for stained glass. I use stained glass in some of my projects, and it's used for stained glass, and some people even use it to cut tiles with. And in this project, we're using it to cut the petals for the poinsettia leaves, for the poinsettia petals. Anyway, I'm not putting this in fast forward because I want you to see how I do it. And what I'm trying to do is get petals that look just like the one I just set down there for this project. You'll see me sometimes grabbing it with two hands, trying to help the hand, because sometimes it can be hard to squeeze, and I have a little bit of arthritis in my hand, so sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for me, but you guys with young hands would probably be better. So here I am just shaping each of the pieces, and each time I find one that I think will work for the petals, I set in the pile there. And I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys watch this so that you can see how I cut the glass. So the other thing is you should be wearing safety glasses when you do this. The glass does fly. And be really careful in the room. I walk around in stocking feet a lot, so you have to be careful that you don't step on any glass. And also, you have to, if you could get a deeper box while you do it. I use this shallow box just so that you guys could see it, but it really, if it's in a deeper box, it's less likely to fly all over the place. If you'll notice, I'm cutting the glass in a particular way so that the petals are rounded. Instead of cutting the glass straight up and down, I'm doing it around the curve so that the petals are rounded. So here I'm just kind of trying to piece them together now to see if I have enough for 2 poinsettias. The other one I'm going to use for a Mod Podge project. And next I'm dumping out all my green tumbled glass that I'm going to use for the project. Now this is glass that I've prepared myself by breaking it up and tumbling it in a tumbler with grit for up to a week. Now you could also just break up green glass and cut it with the nippers, just like I did the red glass, and you would achieve the same effect. It's just that I happen to have this on hand. The reason I did not tumble the red glass is because it's only painted on, and in the tumbler the paint would come off and you would end up with clear glass. So I start by putting the green leaves down first, and I put them closer to the edges, and I put them in a circle. And the reason I put them closer to the edges is so that when I put the red on, the green is sticking out a little bit from underneath them. Next, I put the poinsettia petals on. And sometimes with them being curved glass, you'll put them on and they'll kind of slip off and you'll have to reposition them multiple times. I had broken up a clear glass plate a few weeks ago, and I had some small pieces left, and I decided I was going to put those in the middle. I had made a poinsettia, a large poinsettia on glass with resin a few weeks back, and the center of it was too large at the end, and I really was kind of disappointed with it. So I decided to make this smaller and make the center not as prominent. So what I do is I put the clear glass in first, and then I have some yellow beads there that I put on also. I just put a couple on now, and then I put a few more on when I do the resin. I figure they would stick better. So I'm ready to prepare the resin. I always wear gloves. I always use a respirator. It's in your best interest to use a respirator and to do it in a well-ventilated area. This resin is a 1-to-1 ratio, equal parts of resin to hardener. This is the first resin that I've ever used, was Total Boat resin, and in between I've used about 7 other resins, and there are some differences. I always thought that they all seemed to be the same, but this resin here, Total Boat resin, is much thicker than some of the other resins. It also has a lot of bubbles. I kind of had forgotten how many bubbles it had, but they do dissipate right away with the heat gun, so that's not really that big of a problem. After you mix the two resins together, you have to mix it slowly. The slower you mix it, the less bubbles you get. Scrape the sides, scrape the bottom. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes to mix it thoroughly. When you first put them together, they're clear. When you start mixing it, it becomes cloudy. And then as they are thoroughly mixed, you'll notice that it's clear again. So to prepare this canvas, I put tape around it this time. I'm really used to working with glass and putting resin on glass, which has a frame on it, which holds the resin in place, and it levels out. And I've been having some difficulty getting full coverage on the canvas, so I thought maybe this would help, and then I would take it off after about an hour or so once it starts to gel. Now everybody's resin, depending on what resin you use and the circumstances, will set up at different times. So you have to know exactly how your resin sets up. Anyway, I first started by pouring it over the flowers to hold everything in place, and then I went around the perimeter and leveled everything out. Once I thought everything was covered well, I went ahead and put the few extra yellow beads in the center. I figured they would stick better to the resin than to just the glass without any resin. Next, I'm ready to use the heat gun for the bubbles. I had mentioned earlier that Total Boat resin has a lot of bubbles. Anyway, my heat gun has a low and a high setting. I always put it on the low setting so that it doesn't blow the resin all over or the glass all over. And then on the back is the temperature setting, and I usually put it up to about 500 degrees. I think I may start to put it a little bit higher, especially with so many bubbles with the Total Boat resin. It may take a higher temperature, I don't know. Anyway, it can take up to 5 minutes to blow the bubbles out. Don't hold the heat gun too close, or the resin can, go out over the sides. After it was done, I let it dry at temperatures between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit on a level surface. And I ended up taking the tape off after about 2 hours. And I think I wished I would have taken it off after about 1.5 because it was getting really, really sticky and the tape was getting kind of hard to come off. But I think it turned out really nice. Let me know what you think. Okay, here's the finished product, my resin poinsettia. And I think it turned out real pretty, and boy is this resin so glossy on it, and it even made the flowers glossier than they already were, which is amazing. But I think it turned out real pretty. The only thing that I did different with this was I had added, I don't know if you remember, I added the tape around the side, and then I took it off after 2 hours so that some of it would come down, but mainly to hold it on the top so that it was level and I didn't have any bare areas. And so some of the resin kind of dripped down, and it created a partial cover on the sides. But I think, I mean, I don't mind that. It's just the side of it. But I think it still looks pretty. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time.